Hi again guys, for today's video we're going just over there. We're going to try and take a picture of a solar eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse visible in the UK today, and with a bit of luck I'll show it on screen now. About a year ago I was given some solar film from a friend of mine, and I made it into a crude solar filter. This morning we're checking out Mark II, so I'll show you a little bit about how I made that. I'm going to go fit this to the massive telescope. So for today's video I needed to mount a large diameter solar filter onto a small diameter hole. So I designed this little widget which allows exactly that. I put a small cutout and undercut here to allow it to have some clearance around the front of the telescope, and I'll show you what that looks like printed next. So here you can see the 3D print in place. It's an interference fit, so it just pushes on and holds itself in place. The undercut's visible here, where you can see the outside of the telescope's cover has got a lip. It's stepped up, and this stops it from interfering. And the final shot shows it with the solar mask in place. The grub screws on the outside lock it in. So there it is. That's going to work very well. This is a 12-inch Newtonian reflector. So there's a big mirror at the back of there, captures a load of light, fires it onto this smaller mirror, then out the side here, like a periscope, to my cameras. This tiny hole in the front, which is about the same size as this, is covered by this solar filter with a 3D print that I designed yesterday. And that's going to restrict the amount of light going into the telescope, but it's enough for us to capture the solar eclipse, which is happening today, partial solar eclipse. For now, we've got some clear skies. It is due to be clouding over soon, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin that round, point it at the sun, that big ball of fire, and see if we can start taking some images now. Get ready for the event, which will be in about 1 hour's time. So I'll get this up and running, and I'll leave you out here. So we're just going to connect to the telescope like we normally do and start up the software which we use to communicate with both the cameras, the guide camera and the imaging camera, the mount itself, the filter wheel and the focuser. That's all that's attached at the moment. So there's the mount, there's the filter wheel, the focuser unsurprisingly hasn't worked first time, and both cameras are there. Okay, so we'll go to the mount, which is what controls the scope, and we'll unpark it to allow it to move, and then we're going to tell it to go to the sun. That's going to say, are you sure you want to? You might die. Okay, now outside, the telescope, with a bit of luck, will be moving around, which it is. Okay, so that's going to flip all the way around and start pointing at the sun. It is important when you're doing solar imaging to make sure that you're well protected. It's very easy to go blind or set things on fire. So make sure your solar masks are in place robustly, and don't take any risks. If you are looking through an eyepiece, I'd recommend you put your hand over it before you put your eye over it, just to make sure everything's good. Okay, so we're currently set up pointing at the sun. We are directly on it. The moon is on approach, and when the clouds move out of the way, you will see the sun appear in this center frame here. So as the clouds start to move out of the way, you'll see the disk blows out. It goes completely white. We need to try and keep that in check. So the gain is like ISO in a way. You can think of it as the sensitivity to light. You want to keep it low where you can. Today's a bit challenging because the clouds are in the way. I'm expecting exposure times of less than 2 milliseconds really when the disk is fully showing. Just going to have another check outside, see what the clouds are looking like. So essentially you've got a patch of cloud which is about It will be covering the sun for about 10 minutes or so. There's a small break in the clouds after that, and that will be our opportunity for our best shot, I think. Okay, looks like the clouds are subsiding. Take that gain down. It's better. Okay, so we've still got light cloud going over. So unity gain is 379. We try and keep it under that. You'll see a few marks on the screen. That one looks like it is a sunspot that I was looking at yesterday, actually. It is. And that is quite well focused now. Sunspots help you find out if you focused correctly, and that is good to see, actually. So yesterday I was just doing a quick speculative check of the sun and making sure I could focus on it, etc. That's now at a position where I want to start recording. What I am going to do is very quickly pop outside and have an actual look at this with my eyes, which is an important thing to do when you're doing some astrophotography. Don't forget to look at the stuff, it's quite impressive. I feel like we should have a quick play with rotating the scope and see if we get lucky. This could go horribly wrong. Okay, in terms of focus, I don't believe we've changed an awful lot on this patch, but I will zoom in and take a look and see what it looks like. Very similar to what it was earlier. So I'm not going to try and refocus at this point. I will take another image at that. Now this is great because the moon's now positioned so that the obscured part of the sun, which would be well off the bottom of this frame, is not shown. So that's great. So here we have it. You can very clearly see the sun here with a sunspot, obscured by the moon. Looking at this outside visually, you really can't see anything like this level of detail. Maybe a third of that size is apparent if you've got a solar filter in front of your eyes. You can't see this detail and crispness because it's just too bright out there. It overpowers you. Once this is colorized, it will make a nice final picture. So 1104 was the maximum. It's currently 1112, so we are really at the peak. Capturing data now is great, and this is a lovely frame shot. I'm happy with this. It's the wrong scope really for the job. We should have been using 1000mm, not 1500mm. It's a big Newtonian reflector, which is not the right tool again. A dedicated solar scope would be better. But with what we've done with the 3D print, we've blocked off a lot of the aperture, a lot of the hole size for the scope. So we're gathering much less light than it's capable of, but that's okay for the sun. It gives plenty of light out. And then we move into the second stage, which is all the processing that goes with it. But that has been fun to see, that one. So our processing today is a little bit different. We're going to use this tool called Autostakkert. It's quite a common tool for people to use for this sort of imaging. So I'm going to open the last.ser file, SIR file, which is a video that we recorded of the sun. And I'm going to do a quick analysis on that, and then it will process this and produce an image file, a single image. I'm going to use the top 20%. It will score each image and then combine together the best 20% of those to create one final picture. Okay, so that's done. I'm just going to repeat that for the other images too. Okay, so this might look complicated, but really it's just a case of taking a lot of frames from a video, treating them as individual images, and stacking them on top of each other and picking out the consistent good bits. You can choose various parameters around this, the type of object that you're analysing, where you want the alignment points to be, etc. But it's just picking the best pictures and combining them together into one image. We'll pick up from those images next. So we'll have a quick look through all the images we took. Quite a bit chopped off on some of these. That's too bright. That's usable. That's HA, so that looks different. It's a bit rotated. Yeah. Okay, I think we've got a clear front runner, this image here. So the one in 29869 we will move on to process. So the next tool we use, Registax 6. Registax is a good piece of software for manipulating stacked data. 29869 is the one we want. And this is good for really bringing out the detail in it. So we'll start by looking at the full image. Now Now I think this sunspot at the top right is probably the place we want to work. So I will show the processing area. So I click view zoomed, and then I hold the control key, and as I move my mouse it will move across the image. I let go of control and it will hold that point. Now on the left hand side here we've got 6 layers of wavelets that we can use. These are very cool for pulling out detail from images. So we'll just increase the sliders and see how far we can go with this first layer. As you get pixelation around it, you can use denoise to reduce that. So I'm just bumping up the denoise until the pixelation goes away, and I'm going to see if I can sharpen it anymore. And I think I can. As I sharpen it, obviously the noise comes back, and there's a bit of a battle between those two. So we're trying to increase the sharpness as much as we can and control the noise too. The first couple of layers make the biggest difference. And that's probably all I need. I'm going to lose layers 4, 5 and 6. We'll get rid of our zoomed area. Now you press the do all button and it will roll out that change across the whole image. It starts by doing a small area to let you quickly analyze whether it's working or not. There's a lot of texture that's come out in the sun here, that's good. A few white spots that will clear up in post-processing, and same with these dark spots. So yeah, this is going to be a nice place for us to start. So I'll save this image. Okay, so here we are with our uncompressed TIFF file. We have a few things to fix in the image. I'm going to start with the white dots because they're very obviously wrong, these parts of the image. They're not sunspots, they are optical defects. So I'm going to use the elliptical marquee tool, and I'm just going to draw around them, and a shortcut is Shift F5 to fill the area that you've selected. And I'm using content aware fill, and what that will do is disappear that white spot using surrounding background like a clone stamp would do. And I'm going to do that on all of these because they're not real. This is lovely. We'll keep these. These are sunspots, and these are smudges on the optical chain, these dark patches. I did move the telescope around to make sure they didn't follow the sun, and they don't. They are genuinely smudges. So we will also essentially clone those out with filling those with content aware fill. Now the next thing we need to do is rotate the image. So I go image, rotation and arbitrary, and I'm going to do 10 degrees clockwise and see what that looks like. I'll just get the crop tool and run that from corner to corner. Oh, that's perfect. That's exactly right. Okay, and then ignore the black and white, just crop the image how you want it to be at this point. I think that's about right. We're in the center, close to center. Okay, that's about right. We'll just use the fill tool now, paint bucket tool, and I'll hold Alt to select a color and then click near this and just get rid of these white patches in the image. Again, Alt, clicking near it, and then fill that black. Okay, that's good. So we'll bring in the top a little bit. I don't want a lot of dead space at the top of the image. And we need to tidy up this edge. So the moon did a great job of giving us sort of a rugged edge. The stacking process has pulled out this. So we've got a few options here. We could draw out the shape and then cut it. We could clone stamp. We could try content fill. I think what I'm favouring is I'm going to pull the edge up. So I could either try and restore this side of it or this side of it. And I'm going to take the black and extend that into the white rather than the other way around. So I will just use the clone stamp tool. I'm going to use a hard edge for this, not a soft edge. And I'm just going to click near where the edge is. And I'm just going to track it where I think the actual outline of the moon sat. So I'm just getting rid of all the dark grey which has appeared as a consequence of the stacking process. I'm going to move this to a soft brush now, because I don't want the hard edge on the inside of the image, and I don't need to go right next to the perimeter in many places. That's not wholly unnatural. Do with a little bit of softening in places. Right, time to colorize this. So to do that, you can go Image, Adjustments, and then Hue Saturation, or Control U. And what we're going to do is tick that box at the bottom right that says Colorize. Then move the hue towards an orangey yellow color, somewhere around there. And the saturation can be moved up as well. So we've got some detail in this sunspot. The surface of the sun looks good. This is great. It's come out really well. And the surface of the moon is shown really well as well. There is a misalignment on this top edge. It is pretty much a perfect circle, so I could draw a circle on it and cut it out that way. Let's see what that would look like. So if we use the elliptical marquee tool and hold shift, it will make a circle rather than an ellipse. I'm just using the arrow keys to move this around. Okay, that looks pretty good actually. So I've got this selection in the middle. What I'm going to do is select the inverse by going Select Inverse. I'm now picking up the bits around the outside, and I'm going to hit the Delete key, and I'm going to change it to the foreground color, which is black, and then it will fully delete everything, and that gives us a much crisper edge around the outside. Now the edge that I'm interested in is this one where the moon is, which shows the rough bits. The parts around the sun, I'm okay with those being quite a hard line, so that looks okay. We can play with expanding our crop, so you can crop beyond the size of an image and make it bigger. So I'm quickly going to do that, keeping the sun in the center, and then just use the bucket tool and fill that in black. And this allows us to change the perspective of the image a little bit. I am inclined to have a gap where the moon would be. So I'm thinking about something more like this. And I might not go quite as far as that. I mean, we could pretend the moon was there, and with the moon there, it would be something like that sort of size. So we'll crop in accordance with that. So that could be an image. You can see this difference in shade here. What I'm quickly going to do is just go to the bucket tool, hold Alt down to select that color, and then paint in there to make them neutral, the same. With this sort of an image, you could rotate that clockwise 90 degrees and that would look better. You could spin that another 180 degrees and go the other way. Less keen on that. I quite like the right to left transition. Let's just have a look again how big that moon would be. Okay, so something like that. So we could pull the framing in a little bit. So something like that would be quite a nice image. Just experimenting, try 90 degrees clockwise. Less keen on that. 90 degrees anti-clockwise. That's how it was. That's more representative of reality. But I think I prefer the aesthetics of this. Just try it the other way around, flip it 180. No, I don't like it as much. I think that might be where we go with this one. Now, we don't have to leave the gap the size of the whole moon. We could drop it in a little bit. I think I prefer it smaller. So maybe something like this. And that will really give you the texture of the sun, the sunspot, the moon's outline. What I might do is try and neutralize the white a little bit. So I might go back to selective color and pick out the yellows, which will be the center of it. If I move these sliders, you'll see where I'm affected. And I might just try and level this so there isn't so much a transition between the edge and the center. The whites as well, this will make a big difference. Yeah, so I can really darken the whites down to help this. And I'm just going to make that change for now. I'm going to duplicate the layer because I'm making changes now that I might want to undo. And back to selective color again. Okay, so let's just have a look at the before and the after. All right, I'm quite comfortable with that change. I'll duplicate again. And I'm going to go to image adjustments and vibrance, boost the vibrance and boost the saturation. Okay, before, after, and then duplicate again and Control U for hue. I'm just going to see if I can pull out a bit more yellow. Okay, I just want to pull a little red out, so I'm going to duplicate the layer again, and I'm going to go to curves, and I'm going to select the red curve only. Just pull that down a tiny bit. Okay, so before, after. Okay, so a little bit less red in there. So I'm just going to go to curves, Control M, and pull up the bottom of the image more than the top, so 2 points on here. Let's do that a couple of times. Okay, so before, after. That's a more natural fade. I do quite like the bold orange of that. But now we've got the natural fade, maybe we put that back in. So duplicate the layer, and if we go vibrance and saturation again, just boost that vibrance and saturation. I think I prefer the orangey red, you know. I'll lose those 2 top layers. That's the reason we're doing layers at the moment, is so we can roll back quickly to changes. Okay, I'm going to give that one a save. I'll come back to it in 5 and see what I think. So I hope you enjoyed that one. It was a challenging picture, but we absolutely got exactly what I was hoping for in the end. If you enjoyed that content, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.